to not worry about, what somebody else thinks of what I'm doing, how I'm doing, why I'm doing, but to know that it's truly satisfying me and my spirit, my soul, is kind of the biggest part of it all. And I know that if I'm genuine in that and I'm true to that, then that allows me to share that with others.
Welcome to the Permission Slip podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Permission Slip podcast. So a few fun surprises on the podcast this year. So one, I'm not quite ready to announce, but it is going to be epic, these quarterly podcasts that I'm going to be doing. So stay tuned for more on that. But every month, something that you can expect, or just about, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, just depending on what we feel like. Joel and I, are going to be bringing you a podcast. So please welcome Joel back to the podcast.
Hello.
So I thought it was going to be fun. He and I both had different ideas of what we could talk about. But he had an idea. And so I told him, like, hey, when you're ready, he was up in our condo, and I'm working down a little bit of an office space that we have in our condos. I go, okay, when you're ready, come down and bring the podcast mic, and we can just jam on your topic. And I want it to be a surprise for me. So that's where we're at right now. We're sitting, recording this podcast for you. Only he knows. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and he can share with what we're talking about. Maybe he's going to ask me a question. I don't know what he's going to share, but we'll see. It's going to be good.
I don't know either. My mind farted.
He's just kidding.
Anyways, I was thinking there was two topics kind of came up. One you had that I seen recently, talking about what makes you rich, or a topic that I thought about, and that is around time. So I will let you choose which one of those you feel you want to.
I love them both, but I want to go with your topic, and I want to talk about time, because I think that there is a lot that we could talk about there. And I'm sure there's a lot that you have to say on that topic.
I don't know, just interesting. And
yeah. So tell us a little bit more about what you mean about time. Like, are you talking about time in a relationship? Are you talking about just time in general? Like how?
I'm talking about all-encompassing time.
Okay.
So, one of the things is a lot of people have heard the account of 86,400. It's how many seconds in a day?
Okay, so 86,400 seconds in a day.
Yeah. And let's just say that each day your account starts over with that allotted amount.
Okay.
And you could withdraw, spend it all, whatever it is, your total at the end of the day, that's your total, but it doesn't carry over. But at 12:01, let's just say, or when you wake up in the morning, your account is refreshed 86,400. And then it all goes about the matter of how you spend that money, that time throughout that day, because you won't get it back. Time doesn't come back.
Right.
That money doesn't carry over. Time doesn't carry over.
So true. So tell us a little bit about, I love this topic, and it's something that we do talk about. We were just talking about the other day when we were doing our morning rituals. talking about how today's a new day and like your outlook on that. So could you share with us a little bit about like how you look at the day and your time as it's presented to you each day?
Well, I like to wake up early. I don't set an alarm. I mean, that's something that we've kind of grown into, just waking up naturally, oftentimes before the sun even comes up, but able to enjoy light coming today and just making the most out of that time, sitting, reading, growing, praying, meditating, whatever it is to make me feel energized, refreshed, ready to take on the day that's to come. Maybe I'm a drifter or whatever, but I like to just embrace, like we've been, love right now. So just staying open, willing, and available for what's coming in that like bubble of time that I'm allotted. Sometimes we complain, oh, well, gotta this and gotta that, but feeling that time, doing massage work. If I'm not doing massage work, I enjoy that time going to the beach, riding around on the bike, just stripping down, jumping off in the ocean, getting refreshed, swimming, making the most of that time and what that means for me. And that's just clarity, peace of mind, calm, and just vitality, and using my time to the most.
I like that. And I think a question that people might have is like, okay, that's great. You guys are in this position, you're doing these things, and you have the luxury of doing that. So,
True.
What did it used to be like? Like before, when we were in quote unquote like the daily grind more, we were kind of going through the motions, because there was a time when we were doing that, going through the motions, not necessarily dreaming about what we wanted or going towards our dreams. It was just like approaching each day almost very similar to the day before.
Well,
So what was that like? And then what did you do to, like, what were some key elements to get you to where you are today? Obviously, it didn't just happen overnight.
well, more of life, career, job, family, everything is like orchestrated. It's, get the kids up, off to school, out the door to work, get home, dinner, practices, whatever you have going on. And it was always, the rush of, I worked an unorthodox schedule, and, I would stay up, sacrifice time.
So what he's saying is I work days and he worked graveyard. And so we didn't have to have daycare for our kids ever when they were growing up, because one of us was always there.
Yes.
So that's what it was like. And I know what you're saying, like with schedules, but there's some value in having things like scheduled and having some rituals too, right?
Absolutely.
What would be the value
I think that, having that organization kind of keeps us in line. But what we do with our time, our free time, our time that we're not working, do we fill up everything with today's social media, scrolling, or the TV? Often, oh, well, there's not enough time, or it's a rush, or everybody goes to their own part of the house and eats dinner or whatever. But what if you take that time and it's an hour, a half hour, and you just stop and everybody puts their phone in a bowl away in the living room, and you all sit down at the table and eat and ask how your day was, have a conversation, or just enjoy the food that's in front of you. With a relationship, how about that time, well, not enough time, but we often are, scrolling our phones or whatever it may be. But what if we just shut off from those things, those devices, those worldly things, and just took time with each other connecting? Doesn't have to be anything. What if you both laid on the couch and put your feet together, put your heads together, you read your book, I read my book, sit back to back, something just to let go of everything that's already, a driving force and eating up our time, and just find something that is a better use of your time.
Yeah. And I think too, something that you've been really great at, I always say like you're my greatest teacher, because I'm always the doer, go, go, go. And you like to slow down and be more contemplative about things. And I think that we've both taught each other a good mix of how to take on like those skill sets from each other in our own way, which has been really, really beautiful. So thank you for that. But something that we were talking about the other day is, no matter what you're doing with your time, let's say you are in that everyday schedule with the kids, or you are working that 9-to-5 job, or you are living your best dream life in Miami Beach, being a massage therapist, riding your bike to the beach every day, whatever it is, right? There's always aspects of it that we look at as like maybe not our favorite, sort of like, let's just call it like things that we have to do. But do we really want to look at it like that? And you were talking about, and I think you're a really good example of, sometimes there's steps along the way of things that, yes, we have to do, but it's the outlook on how we're doing them and how we're showing up that can make the difference, that can be the catalyst to continue growth or the catalyst to just stay stuck where you're at.
Yeah. And, making the most out of the opportunity, making the most out of your time, whatever it is that you're doing in that time, be your best at it.
Can you give us an example from your life?
Yeah. So I end up going back, pumping gas, and my thing was, well, this is where I'm at right now, so I'm going to be the best gas pumper that I could be.
What was a little backstory on that? Like, what did you do before that?
I worked in corrections for 16 years.
No, that's okay.
I did.
So they're not like, when I was 16, I was pumping gas, so that you can put it into perspective.
I think 37, and I went back to pumping gas. But if I would have looked at it as, oh, this is happening to me, I would have just been like weighed down and consumed by that. But instead, my biggest thing was, all right, well, there's something to be learned here. And I enjoyed working with the people, dealing with people. People would come in a rush, and I just used the opportunity, maybe 3 minutes out of the day just to stop, say hello, genuinely ask how their day is going, wash their windows, make the most out of my time. Mm-hmm. But in sharing, I guess, love, light with somebody else, and the unexpected, because oftentimes they were like, yeah, my day's been, and a lot of people don't slow down, stop, and take the time to see what else is going out there.
So what were you doing at the same time you were being the best gas pumper in order to kind of achieve where we are today? Like, what were some of the steps that you were taking behind your gas pumping scenes to get you here, both like personal growth and professionally?
I was finishing up. I think I was just finishing school for massage, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I was just starting the groundwork for my own practice when we were there in Oregon. So finishing school and trying to get my massage practice up and running, which I was really green with doing the work. I mean, I was good at it, but I needed to build clientele, which took time. I needed to be patient and, learning. You get kind of these thoughts or ideas that, I'm in this career field now and I'm going to make all this money or do all this. No, it's one step at a time and patience and just being willing to put in the work, take the time. And now I could say I've been across our amazing country, massaging people from west to east coast, and now here in Miami and thriving. And just knowing, putting in the time, putting in the work will pay off. It's not an immediate, easy button you push to get there.
Yeah. And so those were some of the professional things that you were doing. What were you doing like that nobody really saw, like personally? Because in order to really have that outlook of I'm pumping gas, I'm going to be the best I can be at this and continue to go for my dreams, it's not without like working on personal things. Was there anything specifically that you could think about?
No. Help me out.
I don't know. I was just wondering what you might have been working on, if you can think of anything. But we kind of, if you can't think of anything, we kind of digress from time a little bit. But I want to point out that we did go back to time because you said that patience was important. And all too often, I think when we're going after a big dream, a big goal, it could be anything from starting a new business, a new career, to starting a family, to a health goal, to really developing your own like voice or spirituality, whatever it is that it takes repetition and it takes practice and it takes patience. And all too often we get so set on a specific outcome. I know in my life, I used to do this all the time. And this is where time would really mess with me, is I would set a specific outcome and I would be so emotionally tied to that one specific outcome within a certain amount of time. And when it didn't happen, I would make that mean something about me, like I wasn't good enough. And so instead of just saying like, oh, I need to stop making that mean something about me, which, yeah, we could do that too. It's like setting the stage and setting the goal and setting a timeline, because then you have that structure that Joel talked about, which is really helpful and keeps you in line and disciplined. But the other thing is to release your emotional attachment to the outcome. And so when you do that, and let's say you hit it, then you can celebrate. Let's say you don't hit it, you still celebrate that you're working towards that goal, but there's probably a really big lesson or breakthrough in there that you're celebrating as well. And so releasing your emotional attachment to outcomes within a certain time frame and having patience, I know is something that I've really had to learn. And that was just something that you mentioned around time, was having patience when you were building your business. So that's something that's been important and really an important lesson to me.
But I think, making the most of your time right now. Yeah, you celebrate today, the accomplishments, the achievements, the awards, but you got to wake up and do it all again tomorrow. If I have somebody I work on today and they're like, oh, that was an amazing massage, best massage I've ever had. And I go in tomorrow with that, oh, well, I did that great, amazing massage yesterday. So today I don't have to worry about it. Well, today's going to suffer because I got to get up tomorrow and work to be even better than I was today. So making the most of that time.
I love that so much. And we were talking about that the other morning, and you were mentioning that when we were doing our morning rituals together, and had mentioned something that a passage that you had read in the Bible too. And then we were talking about that. And when I think about it, it's like almost like the idea of self-sabotage, because somewhere deep within our subconscious, so the thoughts that we're not really aware of, will try to sabotage us by saying like, oh, yay, I did this. Like, I achieved this goal. And so then it's like you can let off the gas a little bit. And when you start letting off the gas, what happens is that subconscious brain, your ego self, your fear-based self that is not really thinking that you can quite get there or that you're worth it, is trying to sabotage you to stop that forward momentum. And so I think it's important to celebrate the success. Like, each evening we talk about like highlights from our day, we eat dinner together, and then we talk about how we can support each other the next day. But the conversation isn't ever like, oh yeah, tomorrow I can just do nothing because look at this great thing that I did today, because today's successes don't diminish tomorrow's need for discipline and being exceptional and being the person that you want to be. I don't know. I was listening to something earlier. I think I was listening to a podcast maybe earlier or something like that. And they were talking about this exact thing, is that sometimes, and I know I've felt this in my life over time, is like, you feel like you're the one that's always doing the work. And like, you just want to be like, I just want to like have this whole list of things that you're going to like be lazy or do or whatever. But it's like, no, that's not really what you're being called to do. I know for myself, I'm not being called to do that. I'm not being called to go back to some of my old patterns. I'm being called to continuously show up and be the one to show the world how great life is, and then lead other people. Come along with me. Let me show you. And then you can start showing people too. And so, yeah, maybe I choose to do things each and every day that other people wouldn't, but that's because that's what my calling is.
Yeah. Well, you celebrate today and plan for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're going to fail if we have no plan, and maybe plans change. You don't have to sit there and put it in concrete. Have a plan, but
be flexible.
Mm-hmm. Optimize your time. How can you best use your time? That's
something that I've learned. You've helped me a lot with that, is being flexible. And one thing that really helps me be flexible, like an actual like tactical thing, is really when I am doing my planning, is to not really plan just based off time. Like I have 8 to 9 and 9 to 10 and 10 to 11, but also plan based on the energy that I have available. So like for you, Joel, if you were to say like, you're going to do a full day's work of massages, so helping and serving people and healing with your hands, then I'm not going to expect you to sit down and record a podcast with me, because you're probably going to be like wiped out of your energy, right? You need to like rejuvenate yourself. So thinking about the activities that you plan for your day based on the energy, not only physical capacity, but mental capacity as well. And then also building in time during your day where you can have some white space or some breaks to be flexible. So for example, you do this and you don't really even know that you do it, but we do get up early. And normally, a lot of times your day doesn't start till around 10 when you're doing your first massage. But because we're getting up at like 6, there's lots of flexibility in there that if you need to leave a little bit 30 minutes earlier, or okay to leave like 30 minutes later if you don't have something right at 10. And it makes it so you can be flexible. Whereas if you were so rigidly scheduling and not having those time periods in there, it'd be hard to be flexible. Or if there was like an emergency or something happen, then you'd have to push aside something you'd have planned for the day to take care of the emergency, which if you build in white space, like what I always talk about, I like to have like an hour white space in my day. I've been cultivating this a long time, but in between appointments and in between work blocks, so that there's space and capacity to, one, renew myself and refresh myself if I need to, so I'm not always go, 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 go. And 2, take care of things that come up.
But even if you build in that space, yes, I've recently had it and it knocked me completely out of balance. But, you build that space, to where you can leave earlier, you can leave later, you can just take it easier. But, I had my plan and how I was going to do everything and shave and relax and eat and take all this stuff in the work, and just all of a sudden, last minute, I get a message and things change, and I suddenly have an appointment first thing in the morning that I didn't. And just, planning, timing, that space that I thought I had, everything, well, no longer. But recalibrating, kind of letting go of that emotional component to, or the feeling of, and getting back in alignment, and then making the most of that time.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think that one of the things that you said that's really important is that you had the space built in there. So you were actually able to do it, even though it knocked you out of alignment. You were flexible enough to get in to do it and self-aware enough to know that you were knocked out of alignment and that you needed to do what it took to recalibrate. But you were planful enough to have that space.
Yeah.
So that you could still show up, even though it wasn't your plan for the day.
Well, and that's, a big thing. A lot of people are like, you wake up so early. And I do, for a number of reasons that are important to me, that I get up and ride around the beach and not, have it be so packed that I get to enjoy just getting out, jumping in the water while it's nice, amazing morning. So just having that time, that space, and you get up so early. Yeah, but if I got up late, like so many people do, oh, well, just till the last minute and then get up and then they're rushing in. Oh, well, there's traffic. I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Oh, well, it's this. I'm going to be, well, if somebody's really depending on you in that time, that's something that we all should keep as a boundary, professionally as well. Our time is valuable. Again, that time, that account, we're not getting back. It's not rolling over. So to make the most of that time and not just allow people to vampire your time.
Right. So that was a question that I actually had. And you've mentioned this a couple of times, and we talk about this on the podcast all the time. So, which is getting clarity on the season of life that you're in. And then what are your deepest priorities in this season of your life? And then how are you going to build and design your life and make decisions and ask for help and set boundaries around your deepest priorities in this season of your life? So what you just said was that you've determined like where you're at in your life, what your deepest priorities are, and then how and what you need to do in order to take care of yourself, including like setting boundaries. So what is something that you could share with us around setting boundaries and not worrying about other people as much? Not saying that you don't care, that you don't love, because you do, but being able to take care of yourself in a way that is no longer like self-sacrificing because you feel like you always have to be doing for others.
For me, it's simply just finding that joy, that ease, that peace. So, to not worry about, what somebody else thinks of what I'm doing, how I'm doing, why I'm doing, but to know that it's truly satisfying me and my spirit, my soul, is kind of the biggest part of it all. And I know that if I'm genuine in that and I'm true to that, then that allows me to share that with others. So I just got to, it's taking care of yourself, going to the gym, exercising for, good heart health, for, just to be healthy. Well, you got to do the same thing for your mind and your spirit as well.
Yeah, because I don't think that you could show up in that capacity in the way that you do for other people and the way that you serve if you didn't do that. So I appreciate that you share that. I heard this earlier and I shared it with you, and I think that you're a really good representation of it. And it was from heaven to earth, through you to others. And so even though you just said like doing what you needed to do to find joy and to fill your spirit, and you were really talking about doing that, I think that it's really about like you are finding the ways to lay the foundation and the discipline within yourself so that you can show up and do what I just said. So from heaven to earth, through you to others, because you are one of the most humble servants that I know in helping and serving others. I remember like this just sticks out in my mind so much
and the foundation's already laid. We just got to be willing to step into it and take the action. So
Yeah. Well, let me give you a compliment though. And this was like
Mhm.
years ago. So we had just moved into our house and I was looking for him and he had been outside mowing the lawn and I couldn't find him and I didn't see him out there anymore. So I go outside and I hear the lawnmower and he's not in our yard. He's actually next door at our neighbor Joy's house, who we didn't really even know yet, but she was an older woman that lived by herself. And he just noticed that her grass was long. And so he went over there and mowed her lawn as well. And so many times that he's so selfless and does things like that. And the ultimate thing, while it's nice to have like, a thank you or an attaboy, a good game kid. Most of the time, Joel does things like that almost every single day that no one sees, that he's not asking for accolades. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about you. Did you have anything that you want to know about me about time? Is there anything you wanted to ask me about time?
Yeah. About just time, because you are an overachiever. And I think if 25, 8 was a thing, that it would be something you do. And so just about time, managing your time and not being overwhelmed or exhausted. What is best, or that you find best for you to do that?
I know that if I am doing my morning rituals with you, which I've talked about that before, I won't go into that. And you just mentioned some of them. I, however, don't normally do the bike ride and the beach plunge. I usually do once a week with Joel on that. We go together on Sundays. Nourishing my body with really good food, drinking water, doing my morning rituals, doing my walks outside are really good for me and keep me in alignment. What knocks me out of alignment is if I'm inside too much. And I start doing work like busy work. My self-sabotage thing is doing work that's not really moving the needle, that actually I'm probably paying other people to do because I'm avoiding the big thing that I need to do. So what I've started doing is putting more time limits on me on the focused work that I need to do, because the overwhelm comes when I'm saying yes to too many things that I shouldn't even be like saying yes to. And most of the time, that's not necessarily to others. It's like within my business. Like I shouldn't be creating the Canva document. I should be delegating that to my team and they should be creating it for me. To me, time is relevant, but almost irrelevant too. I'm not really sure what I'm trying to say here, but the biggest thing that helps me with my time is if I can stay in alignment with source, with spirit, and know that I'm not the one in control. And anytime I feel like I'm overthinking, anytime that I feel like I'm overwhelmed or feel that feeling in my chest of go, 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 it's actually a sign not to do more. It's a sign to stop, slow down, self-reflect, ask for guidance, go for a walk, get outside, because then I can get back into alignment. And when I'm in alignment, things just happen with flow and ease. And so that's when time almost becomes irrelevant, because I can create from my highest sense of self. But that was like a real wordy way to say it.
Yeah. So at times with doing that, do you feel you like get into that 25 aspect of things?
No, because I'm pretty much a grandma, and I know I need to cut it off because this grandma needs sleep and we get up early and I like to go to bed at 9:30. So the thing that is most important to me is focusing on my deepest priorities and making sure that I'm spending time with you and making sure that I'm spending time with God and not just my opportunity to serve. And that I have enough time and space for myself to just be and be by myself and be contemplative and use my own discernment.
But that's in time that, serving is not just what we give to others, our family, our kids, our spouses, but it's important on that time that we give to ourselves as well. So we talked about this the other day. And you just mentioned you don't get up and go on the bike ride and the ocean plunge and things like that, but that's mine. That's not yours. You journal, you sit and write when I'm heading out to start writing, but that's
and I go on my
yours,
God walk.
you know, and that's what kind of fills your cup, fills your energy, you know, gets that all recharged. And it's okay that it's not the same thing.
Right. Yeah. I think that's good that you're pointing that out.
Important than because if we're always in each other's bubble in space, then, you know,
I might want to poke your eye out.
Something not but then when, you know, you do come back together in that same time bubble, you know, we have something to talk about. We have different experiences to share. So
I love being like contemplating, or when you contemplate and then we come back and we can share with each other and then have a conversation, like makes me so happy. But we should probably start wrapping this up because people are used to about like 20 minutes. So what were your final ideas on time here? So what have we talked about so far?
A lot of things, but one thing is like there's a survey. You've talked about it before. I've heard it different times. But majority of people survey like in the days, you know, hospice care, things like that. And they're surveyed and they're asked, you know, if they have one wish, what is it that they would want? And most people's response is more time. So let's see, what would you want and why? If that was your wish, what would you want and why?
If my wish was to have more time?
Would it be more time, or just what would it be?
No, I don't think it would be more time, because I really do like, anyway, I'm not going to get all woo-woo on the time factor, but I would want more deep, intentional, meaningful experiences that I'm fully present in. That's what I would want.
Nice.
Okay. And I say that because for a lot of my life, I was out in the moment with my physical body, but out and with my emotional self, with my brain. I used to tell myself that I have a bad memory, but it wasn't that I have a bad memory. It was I was disassociating from so many moments, like focusing in the future, focusing in the past. And I wasn't taking off my own armor to be vulnerable enough to connect with people in a deep, meaningful way. And so that would be my answer. What would be your answer?
I would want greater forgiveness and a better understanding of its power.
Forgiveness from others or yourself?
Both. Because oftentimes we hold things and that blocks us from moving forward and achieving things because we're continuously carrying this weight around. And oftentimes it's subconscious, but it's because we haven't like forgiven ourselves or someone else, so we continue dragging that around. So just like clearing the clutter, that's a piece of clutter that continues to block things, if it's your flow, if it's your growth, if it's...
Yeah, I love this question so much. So Joel and I are going to give you and your significant other a challenge to sit with this question. So how are we phrasing it again? Like if you, and this is actually a question that we were working with in Flow Academy like a month or two ago around, you know, if you only had 1 year to live, like what would you do? What would you stop? What would you start? What would you do differently? But the question was really like, what would you want more?
If you had a wish.
If you had a wish.
Something, you know, what would that
be? Like if you were one of those people in hospice, it was the last day or whatever, what would that wish be? end of time, and you had a wish.
You
What?
could say if you had a year left to live, or
So sit with that question, because now that Joel and I both said our answers, it's very clear that those are pretty much things that we're working on right now. So you're working on the forgiveness piece, and I'm working on just being vulnerable, taking off my armor at all times, deep, intentional, meaningful relationships, and being present so I can feel it in my body and ingrain it and have so many beautiful memories and just live a life that we're in awe of. So I love that. So tag us on Instagram with what you and your significant other come up with. So at Carmen Oling, at Joel Trainer, it'll be in the show notes. And thank you for listening. Any final words?
love life right now and enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
This time right now. It's what you got.
I love that. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Welcome.
Okay, get out there, enjoy your life, have fun, share your light. Bye.
Bye.